treasure.
On September 20th, 2019, The Owl by Zac Brown Band came out and was panned critically and by country music listeners. And I don't care what anyone says about it, The Owl is my favorite album. But before I explain why, I think it's important to briefly go over the context of everything leading up to this album.
You know well I'm a chicken fried and cold beer on a Friday night.
Back in 2008, they were not a controversial band in any way back when they released their debut album, The Foundation. When they first came out, they were mainly a southern rock band, but they got a lot of country music radio traction. They became a big act among southern rock and country music listeners, and it's obvious why. Their debut album is one of the best albums those two genres have to offer, from its harmonies, its thoughtful lyrics, the fun songs on it, such as Sick 'Em on a Chicken, and the overall vibe to it. Even country listeners who don't consider themselves actual fans of the band thought of their music as decent, at least. They were a successful band with not many haters, and their success continued over the years as they would release more southern rock albums, which I feel like weren't as good as The Foundation, as they kind of played it even more safe and, well, high quality, but typical radio-friendly country/southern rock albums. However, this inoffensive and non-controversial music wouldn't keep going at a consistent rate, as the band's fourth album, Jekyll and Hyde, came out in 2015, and many people did not like it. The band had always insisted that they're not just a country band, and Jekyll and Hyde is really not much of a country album. It saw the band exploring many different genres, such as heavier sounding rock in the songs Junkyard, which also had an Alice in Chains reference, and Heavy is the Head, which featured Chris Cornell. Yes, that Chris Cornell. The album also had a bit of a jazz song called Mango Tree, but the main controversial song on this album that most critics talk about when discussing Jekyll and Hyde is the very first song, Beautiful Drug.
You're such a beautiful drug, can't get enough. Addicted and I'm dying for a hit of your love.
Which is unapologetically a pop song. Critics described Zac Brown releasing a pop song as like if the lead singer, Zac Brown, yelled "fuck you" into a microphone. And fans were divided. Some of them were open to the idea of the band exploring the pop genre, but others found it to be a betrayal to the fans of their music. The band kinda went back to a country sound with their following album, Welcome Home, but Zac Brown wasn't done experimenting with electronic music, as around that time, he created a pop album as a side project, So Roosevelt.
I can't deny there's something about you, and all the little things that you do.
It wasn't until Zac Brown Band's next album that almost the entirety of country music would turn on the band. Leading up to it, they came out with a country pop single titled Someone I Used to Know, and Zac Brown started playing a pop rap song in Zac Brown Band concerts. And the story leads us back to the beginning of this video, when they released The Owl in 2019, which was basically a full-on pop album. And man, haters were coming after Zac Brown for this album. You would assume he kicked a puppy in a music video or something. And so like I said, this is my favorite album. Not my favorite Zac Brown Band album, my favorite album. This album came after Zac Brown got divorced from his wife. So some people made the connection and assumed this pop album was him having a midlife crisis because of his divorce. And I don't know Zac Brown or anything like that, but I don't think he created a pop album as a reaction to his divorce. Though the album does have a few songs that seem to be about his divorce. I think he's been wanting to dive deep into pop music and let the music industry know that he's not just a country singer.
I am not just a country artist.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I think this album is him giving in to his suppressed desires to get lost in electronic experimentation in spite of all the boxes that music critics have been trying to place him in. I mean, that's basically what he says in an interview he did.
When I put out a record, I have to pick a category to put it in.
You do? Do you feel that you do?
You have to. You release a record on iTunes, you have to pick a category. One category. You can't say country, rock, reggae, soul, and whatever. No, you get one bucket to coin yourself in.
And I think that's very compelling and also kind of relatable as someone who I personally don't like to be put in boxes and have people expect me to be or act a specific way and to be like everyone else. You shouldn't always try to live up to people's expectations. You need to be true to yourself. Sometimes you need to say fuck expectations and do your own thing. If you're not doing anything illegal or hurting anyone, there's nothing wrong with people who don't just spend every minute of their day like SpongeBob in the one episode where he becomes an average Joe and loses all of his identity. And that's what I think the first two songs on The Owl, which are also two of my 3 favorite songs on the album, are trying to say. Some of the lyrics in the words are, what floats your boat might sink mine. Don't judge a book by its cover. One man's vows might feel like a prison. And Need This is a song that seems like Zac Brown expressing that he needs to escape from people's expectations for him as a singer, and he needs to break the musical boundaries set for himself by his band's previous southern rock output. Even though I'm not musically talented, I know personally, as a fan of multiple music genres, if I was a singer, I would not want to make just one type of music. I'd want to make pop, I'd want to make country, I'd want to make hip-hop, but not just one of those types of music. And one of the main criticisms of The Owl is that it lacks the same kind of thoughtful lyrics that songs like Colder Weather had. But so did Sick 'Em on a Chicken. And as someone who listens to a bit of pop music from time to time, I think these songs are fun to listen to, even if OMW is kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. And honestly, if Zac Brown Band made 5 albums like this, I would eat them up. And also, there are some very thoughtful songs on here. Warrior is a song about a man who was a member of the military, and when it came time to move on, he found himself struggling to live an average life. That's something that does happen to some veterans. And the songs Finish What We Started and Leaving Love Behind are basically songs about learning to cope with a relationship that didn't work out. And I have a suspicion, based on how emotional Zac Brown looks when singing Leaving Love Behind, that these are songs about his divorce and could be very personal to him. My favorite song on the album, though, is Someone I Used to Know.
2 years ago, that there were just parts of myself that I didn't want to be anymore. Some mornings of being on the road, you wake up with some headaches. And so that's not anymore. My life's not about that anymore.
Someone I Used to Know tells the story of a broken man who finds himself going down a self-destructive path in life. He makes a big mess of things. He becomes his own worst enemy, and he has to come to terms with the fact that he needs to change his ways. This path that he's going down isn't good for anyone, and it's time for him to let go. To let go of someone who ran himself into the ground. Because that's not him. That's not him anymore. That's just someone that he used to know.
But